Hello, it's Ruby, and today I'm going to be talking to you about romanticising the colder months, romanticising autumn and winter. This is something quite a few people have asked me to talk about because I definitely do romanticise these seasons. They're my favourites. September, October, November, December I think are the best months of the year. I love wearing warm jumpers and filling up hot water bottles. At the moment my hands are really cold, and even that I really like. So I want to talk to you about romanticising it. There are reportedly issues with romanticising your life. I know it's a contentious thing, some people really don't agree with it. When I say romanticising my life, I mean trying to appreciate everything that happens and trying to be like very present and grateful for everything. And I think that's really important because there's always light to be found. There's always something beautiful there if you look for it. Being attentive to those things can help us to just be happier, I think. In times where I'm not romanticising my life and actually the narrative I'm telling myself is the complete other way, I find that it's self-fulfilling. I think, oh, everything's going wrong, and then everything keeps on going wrong, and it's harder to be happy and present. So I think romanticising your life is a good thing. Today's video is also very kindly sponsored by Simple Retro, a women-led company committed to creating timeless vintage pieces in a sustainable way. I also just want to give a disclaimer. I recognise that my life is easier to romanticise than other people's lives. I live in the countryside. I live in an area where I'm surrounded by trees, I'm surrounded by wide open spaces. I'm also incredibly privileged. I currently predominantly work for myself, and that means I do have more freedom as well. I can run outside and go in the rain suddenly if I want to, and I just think that's an important privilege to point out because some lives are easier to romanticise than others. I think the book A Little Princess captures this very well. Sarah pretends that she's a princess when she's very rich, and then when she's shunted into poverty, she finds that it becomes a lot harder for her to pretend this, and I think that does capture it. Like, it's always possible to romanticize your life, but some lives are easier to romanticize than others. Alright, so first things first, I guess, what do I mean when I say romanticizing? I think it's about putting a narrative on something, creating a narrative. Humans naturally, I believe, are storytelling creatures. I think we enjoy telling stories. I think telling stories is a part of our nature. And creating a story around your life, creating a narrative around your life, the way that you tell yourself your story, the way that you invoke this narrative, the way that you create this narrative is going to change the way that you see that story. Think about it in relation to films. You can take the same scene and the music that you add over the top will completely change the tone of the scene. For example, the tone of these clips that I took on a morning walk drastically changes when I change the music. I studied English literature at university, and in English literature we are studying books and studying material to see how they create effect. So effectively you're looking at the strategies an author is using in order to invoke a certain emotion or feeling in the reader. It's all about how we're able to use art, how we're able to create things which are going to make us and other people feel something. And I think we can similarly make ourselves feel something through the way that we approach the narrative of our lives and basically try and turn our own lives into art. I think that we can turn our lives into stories. As Sarah in A Little Princess says, everything's a story. I'm a story, you're a story. Alright, so how do I actively romanticize my life in autumn and winter? Number one, know what things you like about autumn and winter. What things do you like about the colder months? Yes, there are going to be things which you don't like as much, and there are some bad things about autumn and winter, but try and focus on the good bits. So for example, these are some of my favourites. I love autumn because it's a chance to just slow down and reflect and be introspective, I suppose. I love cozy afternoons where you just curl up with a book. I feel like in these moments, I'm maybe the most present that I am. I mean, obviously, one of my favourite things about autumn is the colours. I just feel like the world comes alive. It's like everything is flaring up in a final burst of life before the world becomes more subdued and the leaves fall. I mean, look at these colours behind me. I'm not sure if you can see, but all of these burnt oranges and muted greens. I just think the world is the most beautiful that it is during autumn. And then finally, I tend to find that I feel most focused when it's autumn, when it's cold outside. I don't know if this is true or mainly anecdotal, but apparently you focus better when you're colder. I think it's also partially to do with the narrative of like back to school, and it's at the beginning of the year that we tend to feel most motivated anyway, and so we grow to associate autumn with academics and focused work. The second thing that I do is look for simple beauty. Wonderful Unjaded Jade has this great concept of casual magic, observing small moments of magic in the everyday. It's looking for simple beauties. I might go outside for 5 minutes and just try and observe 5 different things. Make it an activity to like stand somewhere and observe a few different beautiful things around you. Allowing yourself to be more observant and more present should make you feel more grateful, and I'm going to give you an example of this now. I'm going to go outside and do this. Alright, I'm outside and I'm going to try this exercise in gratitude. It's currently raining and we had thunder and lightning this morning too. I used to be terrified of thunder and lightning, but it now just gives me a thrill when I see it. Like, it's so cool that electricity can actually be created. I love how the world is so green, even though it's autumn. The colours of green here, like the leaves, are just vibrant, and the grass as well, because there's just been so much rain. So the world just feels full of vitality. There's also something so refreshing about just standing under rain. It makes you feel grounded and like you're, I don't know, connected to the earth in some way, which sounds very wishy-washy, but it's so true. I think I feel very much myself when it's raining. Also, there are currently jackdaws and pigeons nesting on the chimneys. They scurry inside the chimneys to keep dry when it rains, so I could just see them all flocking towards the chimneys. I think it's amazing that there are still birds flying around. Like, a lot of birds will have migrated by now, but there are still birds. Emily Dickinson very much admired birds and the power of flight. Also, this colour makes me feel grateful in itself. It's like a mustard yellow colour. It's amazing that like green can turn into that. It's also a more unusual colour. I don't feel like you get that colour of yellow many places. So yes, that's just an example of what I might do, coming outside, standing here for a minute and just trying to observe all of these wonderful things around me. And the second part of that is doing gratitude journaling. So at the end of the day, you might go through and write down 15 things that you're grateful for. It's something that I try and do in the evenings, and it genuinely just improves my mindset around things so much. And number 3, draw on inspiration. Think about other media materials which look at or depict autumn and winter. So books and shows and films and pieces of music and art. And I'm going to give you some examples of things that fall into this category towards the end of this video. Next, I wanted to show you some outfit ideas, and I think it matters a whole lot more what we think of the outfit than what it looks like to others, because it's what we think that changes our own energy and that story that we're telling. To start though, Simple Retro has sent me some items to style, so I'm going to give you a quick haul. Simple Retro was founded in 2015 by 5 girls living in New York City. Oh my goodness, look at this. I love the collar so much, and also the detailing on the buttons. Then there is another top here. This is the Erica top. That's such good quality. It's kind of stretchy, and I really like the neckline on this. Then this is the Ashley blazer in khaki. The fast fashion industry is anything but sustainable. In 2018, 100 billion items of clothing were produced, and many of these thrown away. Simple Retro instead creates a small supply to eliminate waste, and they create timeless items which will last a long time and which you can keep and wear for a long time. So now I'm going to style a few outfits for different autumnal occasions, some of which are using these items. The The blouse reminds me of my favourite Edwardian novels, ones by E.M. Forster, Hodgson Burnett. They also use sustainable materials, which this blazer is polyester, but there is a guarantee that there are no harmful chemical substances in it, and the cotton shirt is made from organic cotton. I love all three of these items and I can't wait to wear them more in the years to come. If you would like to take a look at their shop, then there will be a link in the description box below. So here are some activities that you might want to do this autumn to romanticise the colder months, I suppose. Go on a long autumnal walk and watch the changing colours. Drink steaming mugs of coffee with your mum in a coffee shop with a large slice of cake. Browse bookshops or libraries which are hushed and silent as people look for the next thing they want to read. Drink tea in a cafe by yourself while studying or writing, the whole space bustling, people catching up for the first time in months, the rich smell of freshly ground coffee and burnt sugar, the occasional gust of crisp autumn wind as someone opens the door. Reading your favourite book on a stormy evening, huddled up with a hot water bottle and a blanket to keep warm. Eating soup and bread for lunch nearly every day. Going on research tangents and learning new things, studying upstairs, curled up at your desk as the hours advance towards midnight. Reading poetry by candlelight once the night has fallen. The light yellow, the pages dry with the scent of vanilla. Outside it is raining. These are poems you have read so many times you almost know them by heart. Alright, so finally I am going to share some recommendations of poetry, films and television which you might want to look at this autumn. I love reading Milton in autumn. I think he's a great poet for autumn. I guess he does write about nature in some senses, but not in a seasonal sense. So I haven't read any poetry by him where he is directly talking about autumn. Beautiful imagery, very easy to read when you get into it. But it requires initial focus, and as I say, I tend to find my focus is better when it's colder. The thing I love about Milton's work is that there is just so much allusion, like he's constantly alluding to like Greek philosophy or Latin writers, obviously biblical allusions like with Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. My favourite thing that he's written is Paradise Lost, sorry to be very predictable, but I also loved Comus. Emily Dickinson is my favourite poet and I'm definitely going to recommend her here. She's a great poet for all of the seasons, but she does have some wonderful poems which are set in autumn. John Keats's Ode to Autumn has to be reread every autumn. It's a necessity. I literally read aloud to myself on the first day of autumn. Edgar Allan Poe's poetry and short stories are also fantastic. Very creepy, very spooky. They always kind of leave me feeling a little bit tense, but in the best possible way. The first time that I actually heard The Raven was on the Simpsons episode, because in the very first Treehouse of Horror they performed The Raven. Definitely worth watching. Again, this anthology is good for all of the seasons. I would equally recommend it for spring. So if you wanted to introduce yourself to a few new poets, this is definitely one worth trying. I think that's all of the poetry I have to recommend. Alright, so then for movies, I'm just going to list these. Tolkien, which is the life of J.R. Tolkien when he was at Cambridge University, and it definitely has that dark academia sense to it. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close is one of my top 5 favourite films. It's set in the aftermath of 9/11. Oscar Wilde's father died in the attack, and now 9-year-old Oscar has found a key in his father's wardrobe and he's trying to find the lock that it fits, and it's his journey through New York looking for this lock. Really beautifully made, wonderful soundtrack, and so moving. I cry every time I watch it. Theory of Everything, which is the story of Stephen Hawking's life. The Goldfinch book was by Donna Tartt, but I actually never read it. It's about a painting which goes missing. The 2019 Greta Gerwig Little Women adaptation, one of my favourite films again. I think it's wonderfully made. It's kind of equal part a winter movie and an autumn movie, but you're just gonna have to watch it both seasons. Shelley, quite predictably, the story of Mary Shelley, played by Elle Fanning, who does her so well. Enola Holmes, I can't wait for the new Enola Holmes film to come out as well. I'm also going to recommend The Addams Family, which of course has the Wednesday adaptation coming soon, which again, I'm very excited for. The Addams Family is one that I really loved when I was younger especially. The Imitation Game, which is the story of Alan Turing, who played such an important role in the Second World War, but he was horribly mistreated because he was gay. E.T. I have to recommend, it's a classic, and I think it's just the perfect movie for autumn. Edward Scissorhands, some people say that this is a Christmas movie because it snows, but it is definitely a Halloween movie. And then finally Coraline, which is one of my favourites, with an alternate universe where people have buttons for eyes. Just so wonderfully uncanny, like Neil Gaiman is a genius. I also want to recommend some television shows. I'm really bad at watching a whole series of television, so Anne with an E is my favourite television show, and even though we see different seasons playing out, like there are some wonderful like summer scenes and spring, I think it comes into its own in autumn. I would call it an autumn show. It's just beautifully shot, like the cinematography is fantastic in this TV show. The Queen's Gambit, Stranger Things, Gilmore Girls, and then because I grew up watching The Simpsons, I have to say the Treehouse of Horror episodes. Every single season The Simpsons does a Halloween special and I've watched all of them. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it gave you some inspiration for autumn and I hope that you have a productive week.